During Women's History Month, I'm honoring the bold and brilliant and beautiful Mimi Johnson. She's a beauty boss, media maven, and fearless founder. From styling celebs to building brands like Grime Pretty, she's using her voice to empower and uplift. This is a woman of force. Well, thank you, Mimi. Welcome back to Time to Thrive. How are you today? How are you feeling?
I am doing good. I'm doing good. It's been a long day, but we made it through.
Yes, we made it through. It's definitely been a long day, but for listeners who might be new to your story, can you share a bit about your journey and what inspired you to start your business, Grind Pretty?
Okay. I will try in the most condensed way that I can. I'll say the overarching story is everything I've done in my career, I just have done it without being afraid,
Mhm.
and I've done it with God because all the things that I've done, I never imagined that I would be doing. So I did the traditional thing. I went to college, got a marketing degree. I wanted to be a fashion designer, and got a degree in business so I could get a job. Got a job, and just I knew that that wasn't it.
Mhm.
I've always been artistic. I got into makeup. Never thought I'd be a makeup artist. Then things worked itself out, and I became a celebrity makeup artist working on TV and film. Ended up opening my own store called the Glamatory, and that's when it really started taking wings. I had women that were coming into the Glamatory where the questions started turning from business or from beauty to business. Asking me how I built my clientele, how did I start my product line, how did I open up the store. So I started Grind Pretty to share resources in the beginning. It was a blog site, and I also was doing content because I thought to myself, I have a Rolodex of amazing women who are CEOs at major companies getting their makeup done by me. And as I organically was talking to them, I was like, this is content right here. This is me interviewing them while I'm doing their makeup. Um, and learning about their stories. So that was, the spark in the beginning of Grind Pretty. And Grind Pretty took his wings. And I just, I'm still at a place where I'm like, what am I doing? And how did I get here? But I know that what I can see through all the things that I've done is God aligned the steps, and I took those steps in faith, and everything that I've done on a bigger scale has impacted women in some way. Makeup was to some degree a ministry of, yes, you're making a person feel good about
Mhm.
themselves, but a lot of times I'm really being a therapist with the
Right.
person in the chair. And they touch me too, but Grind Pretty, I think, is a bigger step from me doing makeup and reaching larger audiences of women in different ways. So that is my journey of Grind Pretty.
I love that. I love that. And I loved how you talked about, you were doing their makeup, but you became a therapist. I feel like as creative human beings, we put on so many different hats. And God, when something is for you, God will always have you around what you're supposed to be doing in different ways.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so I love how it was just kind of like that certain thing in your spirit where it was like, I know I'm supposed to be doing more. And I'm so grateful that you were able to, listen to that spirit because some people get so comfortable in like the mundane, they get so comfortable in the day to day, but it's like God is like, I have graced you for more, no matter how hard it looks, no
Hmm.
matter how hard it looks, no matter like how hard it can be. Because I know in our family, we don't see that every day to day. Like we don't see well, just growing up in our family, like we haven't seen a lot of people actually chase their dreams. I feel like the women in our family have been taught to kind of carry the burden for everyone else and taking care of everyone else. And it's
Mhm.
like, oh, you're not supposed to go chase your dreams, go to school, get a husband, take care of your children, da 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 da. And we have become comfortable with tying our identity to being the caretaker. And, entrepreneurship can be incredibly rewarding, but also mentally exhausting. So, how do you
Mhm.
protect your mental health while juggling so many roles?
I'm still working on that. you know, um, when you go into different, or I'll say elevate in different spaces, there's bigger problems, more money, more problems, right? Not that I'm balling, but but it stands true to a certain degree. There's always going to be something going on, no matter what. I think the key thing now, I think about my younger self,
Mhm.
and it was grind, 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 right? And it's nothing wrong with having a great work ethic. Actually, that's commendable. But you don't want to work yourself into the ground where you can't enjoy life and your loved ones. And, having my son, and, some personal things happen there really drove home to me of work is always going to be there.
Yeah.
It's always going to be something to do. Trust God, right? Because I think a lot of times we're in survival mode, especially as entrepreneurs. We're in survival mode of, I got to pay this and I got to pay that and I got to pay this. But we have to learn to trust God, that He's our provider. And I have to take intentional breaks, mental breaks, whether it's 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Sometimes I just zone out and just get on my phone and play a game. Sometimes you just have to take those breaks. And then sometimes it's just like, I'm done working today. I'm going to start
Right.
again tomorrow. So, and then another thing that I started doing is writing down my to dos at night before I go to bed because I have a sleeping problem. I'm waking up in the middle of the night thinking of stuff I got to do, thinking of stuff that's on my mind. And I started intentionally writing down what I need to do the next day so that it's not heavily resting on my mind, that I could have a little more peace of mind while I'm sleeping. So that was one thing that has really helped me.
I love that. I love that. Um, well, that was really good. I'm just taking that all in. Um, I know this generation has kind of we're kind of trying to find the balance in between hustle culture and taking the time to care for ourselves mentally and physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And I'm so glad that, you know, we recognize that, right? Because there's often times where, especially because you have your son and you're running a business, and then you got to be a mom, you got to be a daughter. Like there's just so many other things. There's so many hats that we take on. But I would say like mental health is important, spiritual health is important, emotional health is important, and I'm so glad that you kind of just you're prioritizing your mental health, especially like writing the to-do list before you wake up. That's kind of like setting the tone for the night. Cause me too, I'll stay up and I'll be thinking about this. I gotta do this. I gotta do this. I gotta do
Hmm.
this. I should have responded like this. I should have responded like this. Oh, but um, that's awesome. That's awesome. What advice do you have for women who feel burnt out but are scared to slow down because of hustle culture?
So you said the key word, scared. You can't do it scared. You have to do it in faith. And I know that that is a hard thing to do, but it's
Mm-hmm.
also an intentional mindset. Um, a lot of times it's like I said, the survival mode, and then anxiety comes in, then stress comes in, fear brings those things in, but fear is also in the mind. So when that fear comes in or that anxiety, and I have been dealing with anxiety and a little bit of depression, and it's an intentional mindset that you have to, when that thought comes in, you have to combat that thought with something counter to counter it. I had a therapist tell me just that. Every time you get a negative thought, do an exercise. Actually, do this before you even get a negative thought. Write
Mm.
down a bunch of, scriptures that speak to you or positive things in your life that speak to you so that when those thoughts creep into your mind, those are also right there. Whether you write them down in your bathroom on a piece of post-it note or whatever, you put it in your phone. I'm a big phone note person. I got a million notes in my phone. But if you do that, when those thoughts come in and counter it with something else, that's how you stay grounded and keep your mindset. Because coming out of a dark place is hard, and not a lot of people make it out of it. Um, but that is the key to getting out of that dark place. You have to intentionally be out of that because at the end of the day, if you cry all day, every day, it's okay to cry, but what are you gonna do? You know what I'm saying? Like you just gonna keep crying and keep crying and keep crying. Um, it's that Ty Trippett song. He's like, only one night, only one night. It's okay to cry, but only one night though. And
Okay.
then after
Only
you
one
do
night
it,
though.
what's next? What's next? What's next? So that's what I do. I still have, I've been from crying all day to crying twice a day to crying just once to crying every other day. It gets better and it's okay to take it in steps, but you have to be intentional with drowning out those sad thoughts or those, removing yourself from those painful moments and replacing it.
I love that. I love that. And it kind of just ties into being a makeup artist. You're doing makeup to your clients and you're also speaking life into them, you're affirming them. And then you went from doing makeup to putting them on a stage. And so I just feel like that's really beautiful because like you said, you wear many hats, you've become their therapist at one point, and so to me it's just like, okay, you're doing their makeup, you're affirming them and stuff, but there's a lot of beauty, internal beauty behind makeup. There's a lot of internal beauty behind the grind. There's a lot of I mean, a lot of people, we like to talk about where we're at now. But like you said, you've had your days where you've cried, you have your days where you felt like no one was there when you're crying, or even you have to go to a therapist and things like that. But no one really talks about what it took and the unlearning and the undoing and the root work that
Mhm.
you had to do to get there. That's a lot of emotional work. And I mean, a lot of people that I know, even myself, I'm like, dang, look at this, look at that, look at this. I wish I was doing this and I wish I was where I was this and da 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 da. But like you said, being intentional about the emotional work that we're doing, being intentional about the habits that we're unlearning, being intentional about spending time with my children, pouring back into myself, so that when I get on stage and I show up, I'm able to present the best version of me that they need.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I
And
love that.
I also bring humor and comedy into things because humor, comedy, and music always help me get through some stuff too.
Yes, yes, I love that. I so love that. That's amazing. And the next question is, was there a moment, so I know we talked about a little bit about your journey, but was there a moment in your journey when you realized you needed to prioritize your mental health? Like what was that breaking moment for you?
Oh gosh. I mean, I've had so many moments. I've been through a lot. I've been through, having to close my store and feeling like, I failed, and that again is a mindset. When you hold on to things, and you hold on to things, you hold on to people, um, and that they're meant to let go, and that time is gone. And it's a mindset thing, because you could stay in that, oh, woe is me, this was taken away, this person did me wrong, this, you can stay there, or you can see, wow, a burden has been lifted off of my shoulders. Now I don't have the overhead that I had to pay at my space. Now I can devote more time here.
Right.
So I've had many heartbreaking moments. What was your original question? No, I lost it.
Oh,
I've
well,
had so many moments.
we talked about the moment and the journey when you realized you needed to prioritize mental health.
Prioritize. Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, really, it's, some things happened with my son, and that
Mhm.
really, drove it into the nail in the coffin. Like, it's, yeah, when things happen and out of your control, and you're stuck in the, why did this happen? Why
Mhm.
did it happen to me? Why did it happen to him? Um, it's hard to come out of that space, but at the same time, bills are still due.
Right.
You still have to work. You still have to show up. And so figure that out, because you still have to do it. So I had to prioritize, okay, you can't go to work looking crazy, right? So, how do you
Right.
get yourself together? How do you get yourself together
No,
and
that's
show up,
real.
right? So, um, a client of mine, I'm telling you, makeup has been ministry for me too.
Amen. Yes.
Um, a client of mine also, she's a psychologist, and it's not that I volunteer things. I think you can feel things, and
Yes, of course. We
yeah,
have that gift.
yeah. But she gave me a book that helped. It was a journal. It was a journal that an affirmation journal, but it went from day to night. And she told me she went through a divorce, and this helped her, you know, with the mindset, because it is spiritual, but it's also it's psychology, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's conditioning of the mind and your routines and how you think. And so in the morning, you can write, what do you want to do today? Not the stuff you want to do tomorrow, all
Right.
week. Today, what are you going to do today? So focus on today. And then I would do that, and then I would make some affirmations, and then at night I would go back and write what went good this day, what could have been better this day, what are you grateful for, right, at the end of the day. So that really, really helped me out a lot. I've never been a consistent journal person. I think it's that left side of the brain, the creative. I'm just, but that really did help me out a lot. I think once I got a little better, I stopped being so consistent. But that was a good exercise that I would recommend to someone who is struggling on, prioritizing and getting through the day, because we wear many hats and we have a lot of responsibilities on us, whether it's our kids, our
Mhm.
spouse, our family members, the job, the side hustle. All those
Mhm.
things add up, and you cannot do everything by yourself.
Come on now, take the cape off.
You
Take the
cannot
cape
do it all.
off.
You can be a superwoman, but you're not invincible.
Yes.
So, um, I learned to look at things like that, because I feel like, I get people to ask me right now, like, how do you do it? Like, how do you do all these things? And I'm like, I don't know. I just
I
do it.
love that. I love that.
But there is a method to some of the madness, and I try to be more intentional about how I spend my time. Like today is Friday. I was like, I'm at 5:30. I don't know about that. because
Yeah, I
I'm
understand.
prioritizing. I'm not gonna
Right.
work after 5:30 today. So I'm making those little steps of boundaries. There you go.
Yes.
Boundaries. Boundaries is the key word there.
I love that. I love that. And I love that you talked about the affirmations and the journaling. That's been like one of a huge coping skill for me. I think as creatives, we have so much that God has blessed us with. Sometimes we just need to get it out on paper because there's so many things like you said about what did you say, like sometimes we can feel more attunely than other people, you know what I'm saying? And so journaling is a good way to get those feelings out, get those emotions out, get like what God is telling you about. But I do want to challenge you, have you ever done the affirmations in the front of the mirror?
No, I've never looked at myself and said the affirmations. I have not.
I think that would be a good addition to do it. Kind of just looking at yourself. It adds a little bit, just a little bit more magic.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
a I
We'll
think I
try
think
it.
that would be nice.
Okay.
Uh, Alrighty. The next question we have is, what's one non-negotiable self-care habit you think every boss should have?
mm. Um, Gosh, you said one habit? Is that
Mm-hmm.
what the question? One habit?
Self-care habit, like what we talk about boundaries, it's like what do you have to do for you to make sure that you showing up the best way that you can? What is one thing that you have to do for
So it's
me?
probably not fair because I know how to do my own hair. I know how to do my own makeup. You know, I even started doing the pressies. But I will say my I have to have some me time in the evening, no matter what. I have to. Um, I don't care if I'm watching a show. I don't care if I'm just talking on the phone. I don't care if I'm playing the lottery on my phone.
Okay.
I have to have that time. I can't. There gets to be a time where I'm supposed to be working and then you just zone out. I can't.
Mm-hmm.
I have to have that time. So no matter what is going on, I have to have like a decompression break at some point in the evening. So everybody should have a time to decompress. That's non-negotiable. You cannot go 24/7. You're gonna go and you're gonna crash.
Yes, I love that. I love that. And earlier in the conversation we talked about the many hats that we wear, and I noticed you talked a little bit about Channing. So, being a mom, especially to a child on the spectrum, can be both beautiful and incredibly challenging. How do you manage your mental health while balancing being a mother to a child on the autism spectrum? And what would you say to other mothers who are mothering with a child on an autism spectrum?
Well, first you have to give yourself grace. Um, Second is patience. You have to have a lot of patience with not only your child but with yourself because it's a learning curve the entire route, the entire time. You're always going to be learning, and I think the key thing is to try to see life from their perspective as much as you can, because it's in their world, you know, they're not concerned about the little social nuances and things like that that we are so wrapped up about. Meet the child where they are, learn where they are, then you build on top of that. That is the biggest advice I would say, because a lot of times we're comparing that child to either your upbringing and yourself or other children who we call normal, right? So you can't do that. You have to meet the child where they are, and then, oh, you understand this. Like, when I was at home with Channing, starting in the pandemic and doing distance learning, I did that for 2 years, and there was so much that I didn't know that he knew.
Mm.
The little things that you just kind of overlook. Like, he really does understand this. He just communicates in his own way. So once I learned how he can communicate certain things, is easier, and some of the behaviors start to lessen, because a lot of it is frustration from not being able to communicate them, with other people in an effective way. So that would be my biggest advice. Give yourself grace, learn to have the patience with both the child and yourself and other people, because other people can make you mad. That you have to learn too, they don't understand either, and some people are insensitive, and you just have to tune people out. You just have to tune people out, and then meet the child where they are.
I love that. I love that. And I think for me, that's just such a beautiful and humbling experience to get to know someone from their perspective. A lot of times we're so caught up in self and we're so caught up in our own perspective and our own walk. But, being able to put our own perspectives to the side. What can this person show me? What is he teaching me in this moment? God, what are you showing me through my son? What are you showing me through my child? That's beautiful. Well, send my love to Channing. Cute. And how has your experience as his mom shaped your perspective on success, and what does it mean to grind pretty in your own life?
To me, outside of God, he's my number one. And nothing else matters. I mean, I love my family, I love my friends. Money comes, money goes, you know? I've learned to not stress as much about the little things. Um, and this might sound crazy, but like, I've been to a place where I have started over completely.
Hmm.
So I'm not afraid to lose. When you've lost, I'm not afraid to lose. I've survived that, so God is going to bring me out of whatever the next thing is. I've been in a place where I couldn't pay my bills for every, like, paycheck to paycheck. I've been there. God always brings someone or brings an opportunity, and it gets done. Or I need to borrow it, but God gave me the money to give that person the money back. Right? I've been there before. So at this point in my life, he's the only person that, because I feel like I'm his protector on earth. Right? God is our protector, but I feel like I'm his protector on earth. So really, when other stuff happens right now that I probably 10 years ago would have been flipping out about, I don't even, I got a whole festival that, and this is where it gets real. I have a whole festival coming up that I, with the whole fallout of DEI, sponsors dropped out.
Hmm.
Um, People who had positions that were helping me are no longer in those positions, and budgets are being cut at these companies. And so while I had $50,000 to play with last year, I'm working with like $15,000 in sponsorship for something that cost $70,000 to do. Right?
Hmm.
So, um, I'm not, and I'm still doing it in faith, because I'm like, well, it's gonna work out some way. It's just gonna
Okay.
work out. My friend's like, you ain't stressed. You're not. It is a little stressful, but
Right.
I'm more concerned about my son than anything else, and nothing else really matters. So that's just my take on things. I know it's gonna work out, but that's also a mindset, and I'm trying to develop that same mindset, which has been the toughest challenge. I'm trying to develop that same way that I'm approaching money with my son. I'm still a work in progress with that.
I love that. And I believe that God honors our position of humility. He really does. And He will make it stretch. So I'm excited to see what comes out of Grind Pretty and how God shows up and or shows up and shows out and how He's used you as a vessel. Um One thing that really stands out about autism is that it's not something to fix, but it's something to support. And how has that understanding influenced the way you advocate for your child and others?
Yeah, I mean, it's everything that we've talked about is a mindset.
Right.
It's conditioning your mindset to meet them where they are. It's nothing that you have to cure or fix. This is how they were born. Can you help them be the best version of themselves? That's the goal. Can
Yes.
you help him to be more independent? That's the goal. But to change who he is, nah.
I
That's
love
how I
that.
feel about that.
That's amazing. That is amazing. And so I do have just one more question. I know we're coming up on time. How do you stay creative and innovative in such a competitive beauty and business space?
So one, I don't see competition.
Okay.
And creativity is an outlet for me. So I just love to create. It's kind of therapeutic. I mean, art is therapy. So those times, and I think, God has a way of working things out. My mind is always going. So, times where I could feel depressed or down or whatnot, I can switch gears
Okay.
and work on this, and work on this idea. And, I use that as therapy. I don't see competition. I've always been a person that whatever's for you is going to be for you. And there
Amen.
is enough money out here for all of us to make it. So I've never looked at competition. Um, when I started as a makeup artist, there was one person who wanted to help me. Everyone else just kind of ignored, or maybe they were too busy. And now that I'm here, I can understand that. But then some just flat out is crab in the bucket mentality. But mindset, I was like, I'm gonna find a way,
Okay.
and I did. So, everything is about mindset and being intentional and growing a certain level of faith, a spiritual faith, as well as a faith that you can do it. Even when that door seems to be closed, you can do it. That's not the only route. It's not the only door. But that always just goes back to your mindset.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you for sharing not just your wins, but your heart. You've reminded us that we don't have to sacrifice our healing for our hustle, that we can be powerful in business and tender in motherhood, and that we can grind with intention, not just pressure. To the mamas, the visionaries, and the builders tuning in, you're not alone. You're not broken, too behind, or too far gone. You are graced for both the dream and the journey. And if your pace feels slow, you are still thriving. But I have been itching to pray. Last time at Grand Prix, I was like, I really want to pray with Mimi. But I want to close out in prayer if that's okay.
Sure.
I, I do have a little prayer that I said for you. And I think that would just be a good way to close it out.
Hmm.
God, we thank you for Mimi, and I thank you for the weight that she carries so gracefully, the kind of weight the world can't see but you do. God, I thank you for her courage, her creativity, and the way she shows up fully in motherhood and business and in advocacy and in faith. God, I lift Mimi up to you right now, and I pray over every part of her life that feels stretched, tired, or quietly aching. God, I ask that you wrap her in your peace, strengthen the parts of her that no one claps for, the late nights, the silent battles, and the moment she shows up anyway when no one sees the tears behind the grind. Lord, restore her in the places she's poured out. Refill her cup, not just with more tasks, but with more of you, oh God. God, I ask that you give her clarity where there's confusion, stillness where there's chaos, and joy in the areas that feel like sacrifice. God, I lift up Channing to you right now. Every need, every prayer, every dream she has for him, known and unknown. Let her advocacy continue to be a light for other moms who are walking through the same road. God, give her divine strategy for her business, divine timing in every season, and divine rest that goes beyond sleep. God, I ask for rest for her soul. And for every woman listening, the ones who are grinding silently, parenting sacrificially, and building with broken pieces, please remind her, God, that she is not alone, that she is seen, that even in the mess, she is still anointed, still chosen, and still worthy of peace, love, and fulfillment. God, we give you this moment. We ask that you use it to heal, use it to restore, and use it to realign us with you. Let Mimi's journey not just inspire, but impart courage, freedom, and breakthrough in someone else's story. Let us grind with grace. Let us mother with joy, and let us create with purpose. And above all, let us never lose our connection to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Mimi, thank you for sharing your beautiful journey with us today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I'm super excited to see you next month. I'm so excited for what God is going to do.
We'll see what happens.
Alrighty, alrighty. Okay.